Awesome.
Coach, hey, thanks for joining me today on this SimpleCoach interview. Another rookie, super excited. Thanks for taking the time today, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks so much for having me. It's something that, as we were saying pre-recording, I have a little pop-up box every once in a while that notifies me that there's a new SimpleCoach interview on, and it's pretty cool to listen to and learn from guys who you compete against on a regular basis, and what a great platform to have access to for Division III soccer.
So that just makes me think that I should do a video like every day, even if it's just like 2 minutes, just so I know that pop-up's gonna hop in your on your computer.
I'm a millennial, so easily distracted by the notifications, and gotta keep tabs on everything, right?
Yeah, totally. I totally get that. Hey, mentioned you're a rookie, so you're a new guy. We haven't spoken in the past, so really, maybe we could just start. Could you just talk about your soccer journey, how you ended up becoming a coach, and how you ended up being in the chair you're in today at Scranton?
Sure. Yeah, so youth player out in Western Pennsylvania, Army kid growing up, so I did 6 moves before I was 10 years old. Once Dad got out of the military, family settled in Western PA. So youth soccer out there, ODP, club soccer at the time. Played college soccer at a Division II school in northern New Jersey, Caldwell University. Was there for 4 years, studied chemistry. Wasn't ready to be done with the game, even though my eligibility was done or up. And so looking at different options on the side of coaching, and even trying to craft maybe a playing opportunity for myself somewhere. And applied to a couple of different places. Didn't have really an intention to coach long term, but my dad had gone to Scranton. My dad graduated from Scranton in '84. He was here, I think, during probably what a lot of locals would consider the heyday of Scranton athletics. Although I think, the current state of the athletic department is really strong, and we've put ourselves and leveraged ourselves into a nationally competitive athletic department once again. But if you look at the early 80s, the men's soccer program was in the Final Four 4 straight years, 2 national finals in '80 and '81. The men's basketball program won a national championship in '83. The women's basketball program won a national championship in '85. And so I know he had a love for Division III athletics, and he was kind of whispering in my ear as I was looking at different schools, hey, you should check out Scranton. And I didn't heed those conversations whenever I was 15, 16, 17 years old. I wanted to carve my own path and do my own thing. Certainly a stubborn streak within the Loughnane side of the family, but found my way here. I think Jesuit education has a funny way of doing that in terms of the families that send multiple generations to a place like Scranton or any of the Jesuit colleges or universities that exist around the country. Had a really good assistant experience working for Matt here. The previous head coach started in 2011. Was here for 5 seasons. Part of a successful team in 2012 that advanced to an Elite 8. A couple of winning records after that. Hooked me, right? I was in grad school. I was doing my graduate work in biochemistry. I think the idea for me at the time was to, go through that program and maybe take the MCATs and try to pursue medical school, or to get into industry and do R&D or research at a pharmaceutical company, back out your way in that part of the country, right? So, but I fell in love with coaching. I saw a lot of value in being a coach, and there were there were conversations, right? I remember talking with my parents and talking with family members about, is this a viable career path for myself? But at the end of the day, I loved what I was doing. I found a challenge in each day, showing up to work and getting to interface with young men, help mold them, help them pursue dreams and aspirations that they shared. So I decided to pursue that as a career. Towards the end of my assistantship at Scranton, looking at different options, was there an opportunity maybe to go be a Division I assistant, Division III head coach? I was 27 at the time, so maybe on the young side a bit, but I took a head coaching position at Misericordia, right down the road, and had a fantastic experience there. Learned a lot, and fortunately had some very strong mentors in terms of people that were able to help me along the way, right? And educate me and question my thought processes and the way I did things in moments, to try to make me better. And so I can't say that I expected the Scranton job to open back up when it did. I thought Matt would be here for a bit longer, but he called me and let me know that the position would be opening, and saw the advertisement and then went through the process, right? And very happy to be back. Feels like home here. I think for me, with 3 young kids, 6, 2, and 10 months, the opportunity or the ability to have access to Jesuit education in the future, at this level is really enticing for my family. But, boiling it down to talking about soccer and the program, just love this program, love what it means to people here on campus, love the pedigree, the tradition that exists, and think it's unique at the end of the day. I always tell people, like, I felt more at home at Scranton than maybe where I was at undergrad, or, value-wise, was able to connect with those Jesuit pieces of Cura Personalis, pursuing the Magis, being a man for others. That stuff hit home, and I don't know. Again, I think maybe being raised in a household where one of my parents was Jesuit educated, it has a pull to it for some reason.
Yeah. I will say, everyone I speak to who is part of or has experienced a Jesuit education, they're bought in hook, line, and sinker. Like no one else really in the education world. They could have gone to different schools, but when you say, "Oh, I went to a Jesuit school," or it was it matters more than, which is I always find really interesting, and a little jealous because I never was exposed to. It's funny, my dad had a Jesuit education, but I did not. So so two things. One, it's funny you didn't really talk about soccer in that whole process. You never really talked about how the game was really compelling. Like you talked about process and people, and I just thought that was really interesting. Like in that so I thought that was really interesting. I think that says a lot. The second thing is did you think you were going to get the Scranton job? Did you I mean, when Coach Mack calls you up and says, "Hey, the position's going to open up," and you applied, did you think like it's a long shot, or did you?
I thought it would
curious.
be. I thought it would be very competitive because it is a unique place, and it's a place that's had success in the past, and I think it is an attractive job, or was an attractive job for the moment that it was out on the market. Without oversharing, I know there were some really high quality people that were interested in the position and taking a look at Scranton and what it had to offer. I never assumed, have learned not to do that, right? I knew it's a place that I wanted to be back at if it ever came about. And I think even in my close circle, that was understood that if the Scranton job did become available, it's a place that I would at least explore to see if there was an opportunity to go back. But yeah, with like the family connections, my wife and I got married at the chapel here on campus. Like it made sense in a lot of ways. And yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, the people, the relationships. I'm guilty of doing the same thing when we bring recruits on campus. Sometimes I don't talk about soccer for the first 15 to 20 minutes of the conversation because, in all honesty, that's a part of it. But, hearkening back to the Cura Personalis piece, like, we want to get to know our guys as people. And we want to explore what that means to them. I think a lot of 16, 17, 18-year-olds are wrapped up in an identity that is singular in their mind, even though it may not be the case from outward perception, right? They're a son, they're a brother, they're a musician, they have other interests in life. They're an avid reader or they like playing video games. And so, like, we want guys almost immediately or before they even arrive here to understand that that's how you're going to be looked at here. You're a dynamic person. You have other pieces to you that are important. And I think when we accentuate that at the end of the day, like, it makes us better on the soccer field. Mm-hmm. It allows us to have deeper than surface level conversations. And I always say, don't get it twisted. Like, in terms of coaching in the game, I was very invested in bettering myself early on and talking through the X's and O's, the tactics of the game, the analytical mind that I developed through, studying chemistry and biochemistry. That led me to, positional play and understanding how to manipulate space and all that sort of stuff. I love talking the game, but it's not always the first priority. It can't always be the first priority, right? There's so much more to life, and ultimately we want to graduate people that we're really confident in when they walk across the stage, that are ready to go out. And the Jesuit tagline is, go forth and set the world on fire, right? Yeah. But we take that to mean, are guys ready to go out and approach the next phase of life? Are they ready to go out and represent the values that their parents have instilled in them before they get here, the things that hopefully we build around while they're here, and are they ready to use those things as they go out into that next phase of life with confidence in their decision making?
So I've spoken with a ton of coaches, and I remember the ones that, again, the emphasis is on the individual that they're bringing in, and then the process of making them into men or women. And I just find it it's a really interesting perspective for me, because I also talk to a bunch of coaches where the X's and O's are what matters, and it's an interesting contrast. It's a loaded question. I'm not, and by no means am I. By no means am I. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Well, maybe no. I am, but were you hired with a purpose? Like, did Scranton say we want you to be the head coach, but because we want you to do ABCD? Like, it's always intrigues me, right? Like, it just.
I don't know that. Like, I don't think that me having been here before meant that they were able to. Like, I developed a lot at the end of the day when I left this place. I had a massive growth curve at Misericordia, and funny enough, the Sisters of Mercy are maybe the female or the opposite gender version of the Jesuits. Like, it was a very comfortable place for me there as well, in certain ways. But being comfortable at a base level allowed me to also be challenged and allowed me to be uncomfortable in other ways. That question, like the true answer, you'd have to ask our athletic director or the people that are higher up here if they had a ulterior motive or a larger motivation in terms of the hiring process. I do think my understanding of maybe Jesuit spirituality and how that factors into developing young people, I do think that maybe gave me an edge or an advantage, at least in speaking about how Scranton, I think, already did things in terms of developing people. But I don't know. It does sound like serendipitous, right? That, okay, you were the assistant, you went away, the job opens up, you have a Jesuit background or understanding, and now you're back in a Jesuit place. But I think that happens a lot in general life, right? Like, you make these relationships, you make these connections with people along your way, and sometimes you end up navigating back into the pathways of those people's lives, and there is meaning behind it. But
there is. I don't get this. We could go off a deep end on these. I look back and I am like amazed at how this, like you called it serendipitous, some meeting, some person I made a connection to, and that I've come back around and been like, oh my gosh, something has revealed itself in that initial connection that years later that gets me goosebumpy too. So I'm just what surprised you? Anything? Or again, I get you had the experience and all, but was there something about Scranton that you showed up and you're being like, "Oh, that was unexpected"? Whether this could totally be
the first time, like when I was an assistant, or when I came back as a head coach.
Came back as a head coach.
I was really impressed with the maturity of the individuals, and maybe I didn't notice it as an assistant, or it didn't play on my mind as much at that point. Maybe I wasn't as seated at that time either. Like I said, when I was younger, I think X's and O's meant more to me in terms of being a part of the program and adding to the program and having a voice in the program. So, inevitably we had really mature guys back then. I don't know that I was perceptive enough to realize how mature. But coming back, some of the personalities that were in the program, mature, ready for leadership, and willing to do.
All right, Coach. Hey, thanks for joining me again. If it's not obvious to everyone watching, I am dressed differently. We had a minor catastrophe at the SimpleCoach HQ, a leaking washing machine. Leaking is an understatement, but I do appreciate you taking some time to talk again.
Oh, not a problem. Happy to be back. Glad the washing machine has been sorted as well.
Yeah. It's kind of a racket. You buy it's a brand new washing machine, and it took almost a week to get somebody out to fix it. There's a warranty, all that stuff. Anyhow, it's cleaning clothes now. So, okay. So, like we agreed, I just want to jump off to where, hey, let's talk about this past year, which was which was a stellar year for you guys.
Thank you.
Tell me about it. What are your thoughts? How do you think it went? How did you think your guys responded throughout the season?
Yeah, you try to maybe look at a spectrum or a range of how the season could go, even individual results. I spend less time doing that the older I get and the more experience I gather, and end up just taking it game by game. I think we knew coming into the season that we would have an experienced group, a group that had played a lot of minutes together in certain spots on the field. I certainly felt that having been with the group 1 year prior in 24, I knew defensively we had quality, and I'd even coached against those guys, some of those guys at the MPSL level. I've run a MPSL franchise out of the Scranton area for about 8 or 9 years now, with help from some local guys. And but when we played Ukrainians or Westchester, like, you'd see some of these guys on the field there. So, getting to work with the back line in 24 and then kind of seeing how we progressed on from that first season back with the program. Yeah, I felt that we could be defensively strong. I had no inclination that we'd only give up a goal in regular season play and then, earn 17 shutouts throughout the season.
That's remarkable, by the way. Under any circumstance, that is remarkable.
Thank you. Yeah. So, our thoughts prior to the season starting, we knew we would be strong defensively, or we'd have a chance to be strong. Kind of figuring out, like, how are we going to score goals, right? We had graduated a pretty good forward in 24, Kieran Core. Thankful to have had a year with him. But he was kind of a true 9, and I don't know that we had anybody else that we felt was a true 9 in the team or in the program at that point that was ready to contribute. There were a couple of guys that were developing and growing, and so we ended up taking Matt Capretto and putting him up top as a forward. And so it was goal scoring by committee. I mean, we had a bunch of guys that scored goals this year. I think our back line may have scored 20 to 22. We were very Arsenal-y in a certain way, like we scored off of set pieces and being intelligent in certain moments of the game. We demonstrated that we could score run of play goals as well. But I think the other thing we looked at going into the season was the strength of schedule. I felt like maybe this group would have a chance if we didn't win, let's say, the conference outright. I still felt it was a good enough group to compete at the NCAA level. So wanted to make sure our strength of schedule put us in a place where if we got results and we performed well, we'd at least give ourselves a chance to do so. And so we added, 1 or 2 teams, and it was a challenging early part of the season. We learned a lot about our group, and then, conference play hit, and the team had set goals wanting to, finish as a top 2 seed to try to secure a bye in the first round of the Landmark Conference playoffs. So we were able to do that. But I know you're familiar with the Landmark. It's any team can beat any team on a given day sort of conference, and a lot of planning and scouting and that sort of stuff going into it. Quality coaches, guys who know the game well, know how to get the best out of their groups. So a lot of parity and consternation on our part in terms of preparing the right way and making sure we put our guys in a situation or in scenarios where they could perform and try to get a result.
So was it 17 shutouts in a row, right? 17 in a row?
Not in a row.
Or total 17?
Total, yeah. Total 17 including the first round of the NCAA tournament. We had a stretch, so we started the year. I think that one goal, that sole goal, was against Rowan. We had scored in the first 5 minutes of the game to go up 1-0 at home. They scored in maybe the 72nd or 73rd minute. I mean, just an incredible goal, probably 30 yards out, top corner on the right side. You know, Charlie did his best to stretch and go up and get it, but just well hit. And, you know, an opportunity to learn, right? Anytime you give up a goal, whether you're giving up a lot or not many during the season, a chance to reflect for a moment after the game and figure out, okay, you know, scheme-wise, are we doing the right thing? Do we need to switch something up? Was it a personnel issue? All that sort of stuff. So
17 shutouts, 17 players scored. The most anyone scored was 5 goals. Which, when you were, before you said scoring by committee, that's the first, I was literally thinking that it was a scoring by committee. I mean, ultimately, what was more important to you? Not more important, but what do you think led to your success more? Do you think it was how good defensively you were and were able to shut out teams, or the fact that you had so many guys contributing at some point during a game throughout the season to help you out where needed?
Short answer, both. Both were necessary this year in order for us to be successful. I think defensively that provided us a baseline. It's something that maybe before the season we felt strongly about in terms of evaluating the 2024 group and the players that were returning. And it's never an assumption or a guarantee, right? It's an opportunity. The players coming back have an opportunity to be really good in that moment of the game, the defensive moment. You know, thinking about goal scoring and losing again a forward from the 2024 season that provided, I'm trying to remember if he scored 7 or 8 goals, but he scored maybe over his 3 years with the program. He may have scored 20 plus goals from my memory. Not a player that you just immediately replace, right? But I think as the season started and as we got through maybe the first 2 weeks of the season, we recognized that depth was a strength within the group as well. Not just the starters, but we could bring people off the bench. You know, I think we averaged playing maybe 20 to 22 people per game. We weren't afraid to rotate in moments. As the season wore on, we used the same starting lineup quite a bit. Might be something that I revisit. And see, okay, are there moments to, you know, give other players opportunities to start just to put them in a different situation? It's not that the guys starting games weren't deserving. I think they were. But keeping things fresh, keeping things competitive as the season wears on. At the same time, when you get into flow state, you don't want to disrupt that. And so we felt like we had gotten into a flow state and we didn't want to rock the boat too much as we got into conference play. But back to the goal scoring part, like, because Kieran graduated and we were moving around some players positionally in the attack to see what we could get out of those guys and to find maybe some relationships or some synergy in that group. I'm not sure we had expectations that one guy would step out and score 10 to 15 goals. I think we knew we were going to have, again, an opportunity to be good on set pieces as well. So we felt like we had 3 or 4 options that could really give teams problems in terms of matchups. When you've got 3 or 4 guys that are 6'1" and above that can go into the box on set pieces, you don't have to run every set for one person. You can, look at matchups even as the game wears on and say, okay, well, they're trying to take this away. We're going to go, use this person now, or we're going to target this person with the service, so on and so forth.
How deep did you use your roster this fall? I don't want to just call out freshmen, right? Because there's, you have other classes, but how many freshmen got time or were able to get into games and contribute in a meaningful way?
So we had a smaller first-year class. Again, memory serving me correctly, we had 14 seniors. We had 11 juniors. We were very top-heavy.
Oh, yeah.
And we messaged that way to our incoming class. We had some good players, but we messaged to them and just let them know, look, your first year here, it's going to be very competitive to get onto the field. Yeah. We had 2 or 3 guys out of the first-year class, specifically a center back, Dylan Wassenberg, that got onto the field even early on. I think he started a preseason scrimmage for us, and he may have come into games maybe 8 or 9 times throughout the year. We also had 2 first years that made the NCAA roster, which, I'm not a fan of the restriction. I get it at the same time for competitive parity. But we had 2 first years that we ended up taking on the NCAA roster going into the tournament. So, it's kind of creating, right, you don't want to message in a way that discourages or tells players it's completely unlikely to get onto the field, in my opinion. At the same time, as I've gone on doing this, being realistic and maybe more importantly, being honest with incoming players creates a stronger relationship than painting a very rosy picture that immediately becomes blurred when they get here and the realization that it might be harder. I don't doubt that every first year comes into a program with an intention to make an impact, and that's great. And I think that's an attitude that's needed, right? To want to come in and compete, to want to come in and play right away, right? If you're not recruiting those guys, then is there enough competitiveness when they're younger to last all 4 years? So you want that. At the same time, what I learned this year is when you have a lot of players that have played a lot of minutes coming back and you're, again, somewhat confident that they're going to feature for you in some way, shape, or form, make sure you communicate in an appropriate way with your younger players. But I also spent a lot of time painting positive pictures for what the future could be or what we needed in the second half of the season, right? I think the season, it evolves and injuries happen, people fall out of form, people play into form.
There's so much going on, right? For a player, a freshman in particular, there's so much going on that first semester that it's day by day. Which player do we have today? And next day they could just be totally washed out for, like I said, everything that's going on in their lives, right? So that first test period, right? The first major test round, which we usually equate to the 3rd or 4th week in September. You notice an energy dip. Guys are cramming, it's inevitable, and nobody wants to admit it, but it's a trend. It definitely is something that happens year in and year out. Lack of sleep, that's the first thing you notice. You just want to, totally get that. Here's a loaded question for you. What team were you most impressed with?
That we played?
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. Dartboard material, my friend.
Yeah, there were a lot of teams that I was impressed with. even teams that we got results against. I thought Messiah was very good in the first game in terms of keeping the ball, creating things going forward, that possession-based style that they play, fantastic. As we went through our non-conference schedule, like some heavy hitters. Rowan was good. Cortland was so physically imposing in moments. That was a man's game when we played Cortland, like just men playing against men.
They're not shy.
Even
they're not shy mixing it up. Like, hey, we're here to play, but you want to mix it up. We're ready to go. I'm always impressed.
Yeah,
with that.
yeah, and as I said earlier, like in conference play, felt pressure in every single game to prepare. Like, obviously, I think when we played Catholic, they were nationally ranked. Moravian had a good year. Even like it's a tough trip to go down to Goucher. It's a tough trip to go out to Juniata, Drew. So they're all tough trips. There's not a team in the Landmark Conference that we wrote off or didn't feel like it would be, local derby game against Wilkes. Throw out the record and make sure you show up and you're ready to play. So, and then like St. Joe's did some interesting things in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And then Williams, right? Like some really high individual quality on that team. And I've coached against Stefan before when he was working at Atlantic City in the MPSL. Varied approach it, like the way he coached that group different than the way he coaches the Williams group, but nonetheless like super well prepared. And we scored and then they hit us right in the mouth twice, and one was off a set piece and the other was just an incredible goal from a service on the right side to a header outside the 18-yard box that looped up, and Charlie was going right to left, and
they can totally do that. You I don't want to say sleep, but if you just think that they're not in the game, they can turn it on you just that quickly. And not to mention, I think they're very disciplined in the way they approach their games.
Year
in and
year out. I would agree with that. And they got some big performances from younger players as well. I think the goalkeeper in that second round game was a first year, and he was fantastic. Yeah. Credit to him.
Did you against Williams, and it's not so much it's because it's against Williams, who not so much a fan of how they play. I just give them credit because they're so effective. Did you leave that game thinking that you guys fell short, like you had every business to move on, or did you feel like, yeah, we kind of reached our level? Make sense?
Yeah, the question makes sense. My emotion after the game was disappointment. Disappointment that the season was over, obviously. Disappointment that the players in our program wouldn't have a chance to move on. Disappointment that, when you look at that game, and I think it was 17-9 shots in our favor, 14-2 in our favor for corners. Like, we felt after the game like we created enough at least to get an equalizer. So I don't know if I still don't know if I feel like we were hard done by the result with the way it ended up. It's something that I think about occasionally. Just to have, the group together that we had together and feel like we could compete to get to that next round. but understanding there's no guarantees, right? And again, you have to give credit to a couple of the individual performances from Williams in that game to kind of see the game through and to get the goals when they needed them. But I think on the flip side, you look at it and say, okay, we're hosting. We've got a second round game at home. We've been defensively, I think at that point we had given up two goals in 19 games. We've been defensively rock solid all year. We found ways to score goals. We got the first goal in that game. So, we had an important player that tore his ACL in the game before, and just provided something a little bit different for us in moments on the left flank. We were able to do some things with him to get him higher up the field to provide service. So we didn't have that in the game, but we really liked the way our left back in study, we'll call him, rose to the occasion and stepped in and played. So, again, disappointed for those guys not to have another game and to not get a chance to continue to compete. But I don't know that I feel like, and I don't think I feel like it was an unfair result. Stats can say what they say. We can twist those things to fit our narratives, right? At the end of the day, what a game. One of the best Division III games I've been a part of. Credit to them and the way they played and the way they finished their opportunities. Credit to our guys in terms of the way they responded. And I think we gave a true account of what Scranton soccer is and will be moving forward. With the way we played after going down 2-1 to try to get another goal back, to find ways to impact the game and continue to compete. I was proud of the way ultimately that our team responded in that moment. And I think it bodes well for the future. I do.
Does this make you are you more ambitious now than, let's say,
in what sense? Do I
you
feel
for more because you think you can get more?
Yes. But I don't know that this result was the convincing moment. Obviously, currently being back in the program, when I was an assistant here, we went to an Elite Eight in 2012. So and you look at the pedigree of the program from the early 80s, they went to 4 straight Final Fours.
Yeah.
They went to 2 national finals. I think more so you see when you walk the halls here, you see stuff, right? You see accolades, you see trophies.
A lot of pressure.
You see things that could convince you that, moving forward, this is in the realm of possibility. And maybe to a fault in certain moments, I'm a perpetually positive thinker and optimistic in that way. But yeah, I think the future is bright. It has lit a fire. That game lit a fire.
It's got to help with recruiting, though, too, right?
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely, yeah. We'll look at all levels, but the players that are playing in the biggest and most competitive competitions and leagues in the country, we want to try to access. Mm-hmm. And we've got that Jesuit piece as we spoke about in our first conversation. And there's a Jesuit network of high schools across the country. So a unique pool or ability to draw from maybe those high schools moving forward. But yeah, the ambition was definitely there after the game to go for more. It all connects back in, and I don't mean to sound cliche or contrived, but it all goes back into that Jesuit identity, pursuing the Majas, pursuing more, restlessly pursuing excellence. Like, that's a very Jesuit
thing.
Type of thing. So we certainly think that way, and we know we're not guaranteed anything. We know we'll have to work for it. We know we won't walk through teams or get free passes. I think that's the other thing that comes with having maybe a good season is the following year. And it may have happened this year too, but certainly looking forward to next year, we expect everybody is going to want to come in and beat us, and that's the beauty of competition. That's why we do it, right?
Yeah, I would say you guys, you'll definitely have a target on your back, right? Like I just think, especially, I don't mean this in a bad way, like especially since the success you had last year. Like, teams are talking about we want that first goal against Scranton.
Yeah.
Right? Like, mentally, they're just trying to, right? We want, because I don't want to say you're vulnerable, but the success from last year, you're not carrying 10 years of this, not being scored on, right? And people are just like, we got to play Scranton again, right? Like, you're still fresh in people's minds, and I think that's going to be a big motivator.
And we've got to redefine it as well, right? We've already started that conversation. Yeah. Like, success next year isn't necessarily 17 shutouts. Yeah. It doesn't need to look the same. It's probably not going to look the same. There are. It's a different group in a certain sense each year that carries over values, beliefs, shared experiences. The parts that make up a culture, right? And I think that's been an important conversation early on with our group in 2026. We are not measuring ourselves based on what the team from 2025 did or achieved. That's great. Let's compartmentalize that and focus on this group because it's different. There's new leadership personalities in the group. Yes, we'll have a chance to be good again in certain moments of the game. But success will not look the same necessarily, and that's okay.
How's the spring going?
Have you been to Scranton in January and February?
I have not. I think that's intentional, but I won't.
Yeah.
I won't.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
The weather's been challenging in moments, but it's a little bit of a smaller group than what we had last year. Again, like such an enormous senior class. I think we had 30 or 31 in spring season last year. So a plethora of bodies and guys that could do different things and moments for us in the spring. No worries if there were any sort of short-term injuries that we accrued, like we'd be able to get through that. This has been a bit more of a management job this spring. I think we had 24 at the start. We've had 3 or 4, injury issues or things that have lingered from the fall season that are still working themselves out. But overall, good. A group that wants to be coached, which is fun. A group that wants to get better at certain things, like doesn't look at the previous season and convince themselves, okay, we don't need to work on this, that, or the other thing because this is what we were good at. So again, they've taken to heart this, 2026, new dynamic within the group. Not that we're starting anew, but there are specific things that we can get better with, and the spring is a good time to do it. I get the argument that you're going to have, we have a big first year class coming in to replace a big graduating senior group, but they'll get up to speed quick enough when they get here. And I think we can work on things right now that will impact the fall, and that's what we've chosen to pursue in the immediate moment. Not to share too much, but predominantly in the attacking moment of the game. So
don't worry, I have a drone that's filming your practices, so I'll do a breakdown of it at another episode. If I knew how to fly a drone, maybe that would be good. I have no idea. It totally slipped my mind what I was going to ask you something really deep and thought provoking. You know what? I'll just go straight to the last question, and I'll give you back your time. Last question, totally unrelated to any. Well, it doesn't have to be. It could be Division III. It could be whatever. What is the one thing in soccer that we're not talking about, but we should?
Whew. I would say on the technical side of the game, for me, we aren't discussing scanning and player awareness at an early enough age like it's a technical construct similar to passing, dribbling, receiving the ball, shielding the ball. It should be
an imperative.
Yes.
Yeah.
It should be a technique that is taught at a younger age to create higher levels of awareness in younger players so that they can make better decisions. Our game ultimately is a player decision-making game. We don't, well, I would say the overwhelming majority of coaches don't have the moments or the energy to joystick their teams. There's a spectrum with that in terms of coaching and trying to do that sort of stuff in the run of play. But from like a youth development perspective, I've done some different coaching education stuff, and I don't think we talk about scanning. I don't think we talk about player awareness as an integral technical skill at an early enough age. And I wonder if we did, if we'd have players capable of making better decisions at earlier ages, which might give them room at earlier ages as well to be a bit more dynamic or focused on maybe some nuanced things at younger ages. Like, we could go down a rabbit hole here, obviously, and there's also something to be said for there's like a skill or an art to communicating these things, but not in too many words, not with too much detail injected when you're communicating with the player. I think the really talented coaches that I admire and have learned from are able to take complex things, ideas, frameworks, and put them into really simple language. I guess that would be my answer. And I don't know if that's what you were looking for in terms of like a technical piece of the game, or if you were more looking for like, I know World Cup's coming up and all that sort of stuff, but
I've had people bring up mental health of soccer players / athletes. People have said things about youth soccer, professional soccer, college soccer. Like, there's but it's basically an open opportunity to say what are those things that you think would be. And I would say for scanning, reading the game, all of those things, I think the assumption, and I don't know if that's the right word, and I'm sure somebody's going to be like, nobody thinks like that. But I think there's this sense that those things aren't necessarily taught, like hey, this is how you pass the ball, and this is how you strike the ball. That I think there's a lot of people who think it's innate. So you're either born with it, this ability to scan and read a game, or you're not. And
Fair.
And I even remember when I first started playing, we would do specifically scanning drills to make choices in a game. And it would be set up somewhat competitive, but the whole idea is for you to see what's out there for you to do with the ball. And I was 8 years old, and those were the sort of things we were doing. So, anyhow. All right, Coach, one last thing for you. I don't think I could speak to you again. The washing machine, as I mentioned, in the middle of our conversation, my little light fell. I'm wrecking my house, man. I can't do it anymore. So, no, That's
unreal.
Yeah, you are more than welcome anytime. I will sort of make my house like break proof next time, but you're more than welcome to. I wish you all the best, and
thank you.
I'll probably reach out in the summer just before the season starts.
Okay.
And we'll get you back on.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for having me and for providing this platform. Really enjoyed talking the game too. So
it's wonderful.
Looking forward to future combos.
Yeah, it's it feeds my addiction. So
the two other things real quick that came to mind after you kind of talk. So one, student athletes after they graduate, eating habits. Like if somebody offered a course, they would make a ton of money on it.
Yeah.
Because athletes are used to putting down like 3,000 to 4,000 calories, and all of a sudden you go, so like that would be, and then the other, sorry, go ahead.
Unless you're like playing at that level, but majority of people aren't. That post-competition life, that transition period, you'd make a killing if you could figure that out. Absolutely.
So there's that one, and then session design, like practice design. And not talking about the physical load, because I think that's the popular thing with periodization and all that. Mental load.
Yeah.
College players coming from class, want to get them in activities that force them to think, because we said earlier, like, it's a decision-making game. Yeah. It's a game that's player-led, that's player-focused. They make decisions. What's the balance, right?
Yeah, that's a good
What's
one.
the balance when you've got guys mentally tired coming into training, and maybe they're not ready to make decisions right away, versus, okay, I know I've got to put them in decision-making capacities to help them learn, grow, and achieve. I get 4 sessions a week on average, sometimes 3 if we're later on in the season and we want to build in extra recovery. Like, what does that look like? Yeah. How do we manage the cognitive load of a college player?
That's a great one.
So that they get both.
You know what? Now that you said that, for students, there is and I don't know the science. For anyone, for a human being, there is a correlation between the mental strain of whatever you're doing to your physical tiredness. So if you have a long day in a classroom, by 3 o'clock, for whenever you have your training session, more than likely my energy levels would be much lower than if I had a great day and it just sort of went through and I didn't have much to really have heavy lifting mentally. And I'm like, I'm ready for practice. Totally agree. I'm even starting to wonder, is there science behind that, right? Like that would be that's a great field. That would be a
Yeah,
great field
definitely.
to
I
study.
think it's like finding it, right? Like before I got into coaching, I always had this dream of somehow merging like my master's work with biochemistry into something more sports science related. But like going down the rabbit hole of periodization, and we kind of know what that looks like for a professional player,
Yeah.
right? There's enough
Yeah.
evidence based material out there to look at it. And, I think probably for college coaches that are doing it really well, and I won't profess to say that we're doing it really well here. I think I'm learning about it, but there's some other guys out there that I'm sure are doing it really, really well.
Yeah.
Like, what are the considerations they're taking with the way they design their periodization schedule? I did a little project a few years back where I took an MLS periodization chart and I flipped it to more of a college schedule. So, like, when's the best time to take 2 months off for a college player if they're going to be involved with the game for 9 or 10 months out of the year? Is it really the summer,
Yeah. Yeah.
or is it November through January?
Yeah. 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 I would say for my sim, it's maybe not even, maybe it's like November through January, just because you want the summer to start ramping up so that you show up to, you do all the necessary physical work and soccer work so that you could show up to preseason at
I
a
agree.
much higher level than if you took your summer off, right? And then which leads to injury, which leads to frustration, blah 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 blah, all that stuff.
Definitely.
You know what? Like we should just do this. We should just do this for like once a week. Like, hey, what are we talking about today? Because that is really really interesting. The loads. I think we look at it in terms of player load in a game, in a practice, in a very individualized, and that you're
Yep.
right. Maybe throughout a week, but then they get the day off, so you reset it all. And I don't necessarily think that that's accurate. I think it misses out on a lot. But
Yeah. It's more nuanced than
yeah.
maybe what we thought it was, or 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Even I'm thinking back to my youth days. Like, I don't know that I don't remember talking about periodization, and maybe that was unintentional from the coaches that I worked with, but it's where my mind goes now.
We were doing 2-a-days, 3-a-days. Like it was you grinded and just grinded, and so that
Yep.
by the end of the season, you're just like all your joints hurt. Like you're in a perpetual state of tiredness and physically beaten. And that's the way it was. And you moved
Yep.
on.
Yeah.
All right, Coach. Thanks for this. Do appreciate it. I got to get up there for one of your games. That's for sure.
Love to have you.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So, but thank you again for all this. And your patience
No.
with my account.
Well, apparently I'm costing you money over there, so
I gotta.
my
get a
apologies for
handyman.
breaking stuff.
I am sending Scranton the bill. So don't worry about it. It won't come to you. I'll just send it straight to the bursar's office or whatever.
Accounts payable, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, Coach. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.